CMUEagles.com with Central Methodist head women's basketball coach James Arnold as the Eagles prepare to travel to Culver-Stockton on Thursday for a 5:30 p.m. Central Time tip-off. Coach, the second time these two teams have played this season, what did you learn from the first matchup that you think is going to maybe play dividends in Game 2?
It was a real close basketball game. A minute 40 to go, tied, and it just came down to the final minute and a half, and Culver outplayed us significantly in that last hour, or that last minute and a half. They scored 73 points against us here at home. We fouled a little bit towards the end, but that's entirely too many points for us to be giving up. But they are very potent offensively. They've got 6 kids that average 7 or more points. Again, reminds us of a team that we had a couple years ago when Coach Bergen was my assistant, when we had a lot of different kids that could come off the bench and hurt you, a lot of different kids in the lineup that could do some things, and they've got that going. Playing very well, 16-6, third place in the league, just outside the top 25. So for us, we look at it as an opportunity to beat somebody above us, an opportunity to try to get a name win on our record, and to try to keep this thing going after a pretty solid win against Crowley's Ridge.
Coach Bergen, after struggling in her first year, has put it together in her second year. What are some of the tendencies or things that you've noticed that she's been able to change in her program as she's probably been able to take some things she learned under you as one of your former disciples?
Well, a lot of the things that she does, we did, but a lot of that's because of the influence she had on me as well. The spacing is really good, and we always talk a lot about spacing. They really executed their spacing extremely well. I think the biggest key for them is last year when they had their struggles, they were playing a ton of sophomores. Those sophomores are now all juniors, and they've gone through it together, and they've grown. I think Culver-Stockton, along with Benedictine, are the hardest working teams in the league. I think Culver-Stockton is the grittiest, the grimiest, the team that clocks in and goes to work more so than any other team. And I think that's what's paid the most dividends for them, in addition to the fact that they not only play hard, but they've got some skill. And Randy Lee Plunkett was the freshman of the year. They've added a post player inside that's really, really good. TJ Hart is one of the most athletic and jet quick point guards in the league. In the first game, we were able to get plenty of shots. We were able to make some shots. I thought offensively we did some really good things. I think we could be better and crisper. But defensively, we gave up too many second chance points. We didn't force enough turnovers. We allowed Randy Lee and their guards to get to the middle of the paint all day long. And when you're allowed to get into the paint like that, we're going to give up a lot of points. So those are our focuses going into the game, to make sure we keep them out of the paint, keep them away from getting to the middle, and trying to force some more turnovers, to be quite honest.
With each coach knowing the tendencies of the other, how do you hide or change up what you do so that the other staff isn't able to get a beat on what you're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this time of the year, we've, especially with Coach Bergen and the familiarity we have, but, you talk about some of these coaches have been in the league now for 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years together, and there's a lot of the same tendencies. And what you've got to make sure you do yourself is do what you do and do it perfectly. Because even if the other team knows screens are coming or they know a set's coming, you still need to be able to execute that. And that's the value of practices, because the scout team usually knows what's happening too, and you've got to make sure you're executing perfectly. The other thing you do is you try to mix up little things here and there. You try to change up little things here and there to keep the opponents on their toes, to keep things fresh. It also allows your kids to stay fresh mentally. So maybe it's throwing in a flare screen there, maybe it's throwing in a trap here. I think for us, we're going to need to start looking like we did a little bit against Crowley's Ridge, of zoning a little bit more. I think we're going to need to look at maybe looking at trapping out of some timeouts a little bit more, things like that, to just kind of not only get ourselves a little bit more remotivated, reacclimated to some new things, but to keep the opponents on their toes.
Morgan veteran Taylor McDowell played bombs away from 3 in last night's victory over Crowley's Ridge. Obviously a more talented opponent coming up Thursday, but what kind of sustained success do you think you can take from Tuesday and apply it to Thursday?
Well, I thought, regardless of the opponent, I thought we played really hard against Crowley's Ridge, and I thought we played as hard as we have in a while, and I think that's a good sign. We talked about how this week could be a really big week for us with 3 games, and anytime you get 3 games, of course you're not practicing, and you're playing against somebody else, you're not beating up on each other, and that's nice. I think Culver-Stockton is a game, again, this is a really quality team, but I think it's a winnable game for us if we come out and work hard and we make shots. And what I like about the way those two shot the basketball is, it looked a little bit like they did early, and they were very confident. And when you're making those shots and you start seeing the splash down happen, you start seeing the ball go through the basket, you tend to shoot it with a little more confidence. We need that against Culver. We had that in the first game, but we didn't get enough stops. What we need to do is find a way to make some shots, get the stops, and really, #1 offensive team, rebounding team in the league, Culver is. We've got to keep them off the boards.